What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel whenever you do that. Additionally, you can become a patron. Not only is that the best way to support the channel, but additionally you'll get to vote weekly on a deck tech that I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsom. You rock. Now, let's get into today's deck tech with Gonti. And I've realized something. The only thing this deck needs is to get Gonti on the battlefield and attack with a bunch of unblockable creatures. So that leaves the deck wide open for us to build whatever we want. And I decided that ninjas is going to be the way. We can run some really fun ninjas that generate a ton of value. And we're not going to have to sink a ton of mana into them to get this strategy up and going. Which is very important as well because we kind of want to be using our mana to cast our opponent's spell. We do get to play Yoriko in this deck, which is also pretty cool because we can end the game that way. We get to play some other really fun cards like Brainstealer Dragon that can win us the game, and Hordling Broodlord that is going to give all of our spells we cast from Exile Convoke. And again, we are going wide with a bunch of unblockable creatures. We are also going to play some creatures that have evasion, that have ETBs, or cast triggers like Thieving Skydiver. So now whenever we ninjutsu our deck into or onto the battlefield and we get the ninja value, Thieving Skydiver comes back to our hand and we can cast it again for additional value. This deck is just going to generate value whenever we do anything. So if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. I'll also make all of you budget players a deal. If we get this video to 500 likes, I will release a budget version of this deck. Let's talk about the ninjas because that's the cool part of this deck. Orochi Soul Reaver is going to be amazing here. Not only is it going to help us go wide because we're manifesting the top card of our opponent's library, but additionally we're getting treasure tokens as well. So that's going to help us cast those cards from the top of our opponent's library as well. Prosperous Thief is going to be super flexible here. The whole goal of the deck is to deal at least 1 damage to each of our opponents every single turn, so now we're getting treasure tokens whenever we do that, and it works for ninjas and rogues. 9 times out of 10, if that unblockable creature isn't a ninja, it's going to be a rogue, so this is going to be perfect in the deck. Silver for Master, it's going to give us a slight buff to all of our ninjas and rogues, and it's going to cut down the ninjutsu cost of all of our ninjutsu abilities. Yuriko Tiger Shadow, we already know this is going to be some insane card advantage in this deck, and then additionally the flips off the top can kill our opponents and really start whittling away their life total. Satoru is also going to see play here. Not only does it have menace, so additionally it's kind of hard to block, which is what we want, it's also going to draw us a card whenever we ninjutsu in a creature. Ingenious Infiltrator is just going to allow us to draw a card whenever a ninja deals combat damage to a player. Satoru Umezawa is going to be amazing here. Sometimes that ninjutsu can actually reduce the cost of some of our other ninjutsu abilities in the deck. And then additionally, we're going to get some solid card advantage whenever we ninjutsu. It's going to give our Brainstealer Dragon and Hordling Broodlord ninjutsu. So this is just going to be an amazing inclusion in the deck. Silent Blade Oni, now this is just going to allow us to steal more cards from our opponents. Notably, this does basically mean we're making them discard cards, but we get to cast those discarded cards, so it's kind of really busted. Nashi Moon Sage, Inkai Servant Oni, and Fallen Shinobi are all going to lend themselves to the strategy of stealing our opponent's cards, whether it be from their graveyard or the top of their library. Anything goes, right? Sakashima's Student, now this is going to be a clone ninja, so this is going to steal their most impactful creature, or it's going to be another copy of a Brainstealer Dragon, but it is going to maintain the fact that it is a ninja. Thousand-Faced Shadow, this is another way to create token copies of our creatures, and in a ninjutsu deck, we can do this multiple times because we can just keep throwing this back into our hand and cast it again, ninjutsu it out. You know, this is where the value of the deck comes from. Mist Syndicate Naga is just going to go wide super fast. It's kind of like a slow Scute Swarm that just starts doubling over time. It's going to be very good in a deck where we're trying to go wide. Black Market Connections, now this makes ninjas because we have those changelings, and additionally it's just a ton of value. You get card advantage and you get ramp while you're creating the tribe that you care about. Higure is going to be a super solid way to search up any ninja card from our library. Additionally, it can give our ninjas unblockable. Springleaf Avenger is essentially an Eternal Witness put on a combat damage trigger. Not to mention this thing is massive, so it's going to be a very welcome include to the deck. Changeling Outcast, it's an unblockable changeling, but it is a ninja in this case, so that's going to work perfectly. Now, in order for our ninjutsu abilities to work, the other half of the deck needs to be evasive creatures, so let's go over those real quick. I'm going to talk about the most valuable ones first, like Thieving Skydiver. This is going to be amazing because we can keep stealing our opponent's artifacts, and whenever we ninjutsu a thing in, this is going to go back to our hand, we recast it, we steal more artifacts. It's going to be incredibly annoying for our opponents to deal with. Baleful Strix and Fairy Seer, this is just going to draw us a card and scry whenever it enters the battlefield. Not as annoying, but this is still going to provide a lot of value to the deck. Thief of Sanity just has flying, so that is evasion, and it's kind of doing what the deck already wants to do anyway, so it's going to be a perfect inclusion here. Dothy Voidwalker, again, a very good card that has shadow, so it's essentially unblockable, and it's going to basically turn off our opponent's graveyards while additionally giving us value. This card can be oppressive, but it's not as oppressive as your Rest in Peace effects because you can eventually sacrifice it and get that value, and then it will turn that effect off, but everything that was exiled before will still stay in that Dothy zone. Thada Adele, now I'm kind of getting high on this girl just because of the fact that so many people are running the One Ring. 9 times out of 10, Thada Adele is just another One Ring that you get from somebody else's library, and it synergizes with our commander as well because you are casting that from exile. If you're not grabbing the One Ring, you're grabbing the Soul Rings, and you're ramping to an Oblivion. Orin Frostfang and Sereth. Now, this is basically going to give our attacking creatures death touch, so it's going to really incentivize our opponents, hey, don't block our creatures. And then additionally, Orin Frostfang is going to give us some card advantage, and Sereth is going to give us a little bit of protection. Champion of Liam Hall is just going to get pretty big. This deck does have a lot of creatures entering the battlefield, right? Because we're ninjutsuing every turn, and then our creatures are very low CMC, so you ninjutsu, then you play your 1-drop again. That's going to be a very common play pattern, so the ETBs in this deck are kind of insane. Glenalindra Archmage and Siren Stormtamer are some solid protection pieces that additionally do have, evasion, so we can connect pretty easily with these. Trident Shorestalker, Mistcloak Herald, Tormented Soul, and Slitherblade just flat have unblockable, and they come down super early. Let's talk about some more synergistic cards in the deck that are specifically going to synergize with our commander and the strategy. Doc Arlock is going to be amazing here. Our commander already has a cost reducer, and this is going to further reduce the cost of those cards, so now we're paying 3 less than that card cost. This is really going to catapult us ahead of our opponents. Hordling Broodlord, one of the best cards in the deck. It's a tutor. It gives all the spells we cast from exile convoke. It gives whatever you tutor convoke. This is a really solid card, but it does have a very high mana cost, so we are going to really depend on Satoru to get this out, or we're just going to have to ramp really hard, which this deck can also do. Brainstealer Dragon does some absolute work in this deck. While we're casting their spells, getting a ton of value, we're also going to be draining their life. This card can just win you the game in the right scenarios. It is pretty expensive, but this deck does have a lot of potential to ramp hard, especially when we're stealing all of our opponent's ramp as well. Grazilex is going to be a lose-lose for our opponents. Either they let the ninjas through and they start dealing damage to our opponents, we start drawing cards, getting all of our value, or they let that ninja go back to our hand and we can ninjutsu it out again for additional value. Again, they lose anytime this guy resolves on the battlefield. Grim Hireling just for some added treasure token generation. This card has recently shot up to $20, so if you've previously had one, congratulations. If not, maybe wait for it to come down. Guardian Project and the Great Henge. Now, these are going to be really good in this deck because, again, the play pattern is play a 1-drop with evasion, play a ninja, and then the 1-drop goes back into your hand, play the 1-drop again. So in that scenario, you're spending like 3 mana for 3 creatures entering the battlefield and drawing 3 cards. These cards are going to be amazing in this deck. We're also going to play Azusa, Lost But Seeking, and Exploration. We are going to be exiling a good chunk of our opponent's lands, right? We can't get hits all the time. So it's going to be very helpful for us to play additional lands. That way we can at least get some value out of them. Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, and Sakashima the Imposter. Now, these are going to be very good with ninjas because we can have them enter in as a clone of something that we need at the time, and then later in the game we can ninjutsu them back into our hand and cast them as a different creature. It can be a token copy of Gonti, it can help round out our ninja count in the deck, it can just be whatever broken creatures on the battlefield. These cards are just going to be amazingly flexible. Beastmaster's Ascension seemed really good in this deck. Now, we have a lot of 1/1 unblockable creatures, right? So what if those unblockable creatures were 6/6s instead? And then additionally, between all of the creatures we're casting, all of the times we're attacking, we're trying to attack every turn, that's what this deck does, we're casting our opponent's creatures, it's going to be very easy to get 7 counters on this, and then it's going to be really hard to stop us from there. Canopy covers just to protect our commander and give him a little bit of evasion. Bane of Progress, again, this is an ETB, so ETBs are very abusable in this deck, and it's a very powerful ETB at that. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, another very powerful ETB that synergizes with our commander and the deck overall, and then additionally it has Death Touch, so people are not going to want to block this. This will make it an easy ninjutsu target, that way we can get his ETB over and over again for some insane value. Eternal Witness, again, another solid ETB in this deck, that way we can ninjutsu it in and get that ETB over and over again. Mist of Lorien is a removal spell that I've been on. It's really good at removing tokens. It's really good at getting whatever you need off the battlefield. That replicate cost comes in handy, and honestly, it's a budget card that I think needs to see more play. With that being said, guys, that's going to be the end of the video. Don't forget to like the crap out of this. If you guys get this to 500 likes, I will build a budget version for you guys. You guys seem to like that, so, you know, like it up if you want that to happen. With that being said, I would like to thank my patrons, Excessum, Prater, Newsome, and Chicken Salad. You guys are amazing. Really keep the channel going. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.